Okay, we are on. All right, so in this session, I'm going to be talking a little bit about worksite wellness and best practices. The presentation I'm going to show you is what I would call a starter presentation for organizations that are interested in doing worksite wellness and just providing a foundation and maybe some ideas and really just open it up to discussion. Because many organizations have some component of worksite wellness, but they might be in very different places. So this is the basics and the foundation of ideas around worksite wellness, and also what some of the research says about some of the worksite wellness practices. And then what we'll move into is the role that extension could possibly play in worksite wellness and just what some other states are doing in extension around worksite wellness, and then brainstorming some ideas for us here in New Mexico. What are some things that we think we could do in different counties or even as a statewide type of effort? So it's really meant to provide just some ideas and then get into discussion. So hopefully this is useful for everybody, and I can't wait to hear everybody's ideas and experiences with this. So I'm just going to start off with, why wellness? Why would employers and work sites and organizations worry about wellness? And there are a multitude of reasons. And so if you look at the most common reasons that employers would want to even get involved with employee wellness, it would be a lot of times for productivity and performance. So we know that if employees are healthier or happier, that they perform better, they're more productive, they don't miss out on as much work. When they're there, they're more apt to engage in work. And so that's a return for the employers, obviously, and the employees. For a lot of employers, the cost of healthcare keeps rising, the burden of disease, so lower back pain, depression, a lot of different health conditions that increase not just the cost, but then also everything that's involved with that, doctor's appointments and missing work and things along those lines, and that's associated with dollars as well. Some organizations use that as a recruitment method, saying, if you come here, it's going to be a great place to work. Look at all of these wonderful things that we offer to employees in terms of wellness and well-being. It could be to retain employees. So if other organizations begin to offer all of these different worksite wellness activities and initiatives, then employees might go quit and go work somewhere else. And so addressing retention and turnover, which again comes back to money, and then just improved culture and satisfaction and wanting to have a great place to work. A lot of employers are interested in what that looks like, winning awards in culture and satisfaction, and they track these things. They have employee surveys on how satisfied employees are and what they think about the culture and their managers and things along those lines. So those are some of the basic reasons that employers would want to engage in wellness types of activities. When we talk about wellness or well-being, there's a lot of different definitions for it. And, when we talk about wellness in the workplace, it might be just physical, for some places. It might be physical and emotional, or physical and mental. And so here you have the definitions of wellness: the state or condition of being in good physical and mental health, the quality or state of being in good health, the quality or state of being healthy in body and mind, especially as the result of deliberate effort. And then you have these definitions for well-being: a state characterized by health, happiness, and prosperity. So adding in the notion of being happy and adding in the notion of financial wellness as well, which we know that Bryce would be happy about. And then achievement of a good and satisfactory existence as defined by the individual. I like this definition in particular because it allows the individual to decide, what do I think is a good existence for myself? What do I want? Not what does someone else want for me? And so you'll see in a couple of places this notion of autonomy and purpose pops up, and why that actually is an important component of well-being. So again, I'm just going to keep broadening sort of what are some of the things that are in wellness programs, and you will see all these different models out there that exist. And so I've just given an example here of, wellness might be physical component, social, intellectual, spiritual, emotional, occupational, environmental, And then these additional things might be, financial health, maybe work-life balance types of things, and even preventive care, vaccines, flu shots, things along those lines. So these are all different possibilities. And then to expand even further, a lot of well-being programs now in organizations will look at how jobs are designed and job sharing and the hours and flexible work from home types of things. Mentoring, there are studies that show that people who are being mentored or they have formal mentoring types of programs might be more satisfied and happier at work. And this in turn helps them to feel more satisfied, take better care of themselves. So anytime that you can leverage one area that it helps people feel better or be happier, it ends up impacting other areas as well. Workplace culture, there's a lot in wellness now around workplace culture, workplace climate. So you might have these programs going on, but they're sitting in this toxic culture or negative culture. And so there are a lot of programs that will address culture, stress management. Fairness is one of those areas that the research shows is really important to employees, even more so than what they get paid, is are they being treated fairly? Do they have a fair chance at promotion? Do they have a fair chance at winning an award of some sort? Or is there bias? Is there nepotism? Is there political thing? Are there political factors happening that impede perhaps some of these awards, promotions, and things along those lines? And what they have shown is that when employees feel like it's not a fair playing game, that is a reason for them to leave. That is a reason for them to be disengaged, and that is even more important to them than how much they make. So that's really important. Positive environment, so just being around positive people and good attitudes, and so a lot of well-being programs address that. A lot are working on leaders, because leaders set that tone and really establish a culture. And so leaders might be able to do the strategy and decision making and this or that, but the people skills, the social aspect of it, they may not do as well, and that impacts well-being and health and happiness and that sort of thing. So lots of different things to consider or to address, and a lot of times. And I'll get into this a little bit more with some other slides, but employers just focus on low-hanging fruit and some of the just easy things, like, oh, we'll just put in a gym and everything will be fixed, or we'll allow people to have some standing desks and that will just fix everything. And it's not really addressing in a holistic way all of the different moving pieces within an organization that may be affecting employee well-being. If we wanted to get into even more detail, within these different categories, like physical, you'll have nutrition, physical activity, sleeping, relaxation, emotional resilience and coping, relationships and connections. So this is where my team building might come into play, or even personal relationships, because we know that if people are struggling managing personal relationships at home, those spill into work, and people who are struggling with peers and supervisors, those things spill over into the home, and it can create a situation in which somebody feels depressed, somebody just isn't really as engaged, and that's going to be a problem for the organization. On the mental side, it's mental toughness or fortitude. The mindfulness, there are lots of organizations that have implemented company-wide mindfulness training and opportunities because they realize the impact that it has on various areas of performance and well-being. Financial capabilities, whether it's a lot of the stuff that Bryce offers, getting out of debt, managing investments, preparing for retirement in the future. We know that when employees are stressed out about money, it impacts their work and it impacts their health and their well-being, which then impacts cost and burden of disease. And so a lot of employers are recognizing that providing providing a paycheck is not enough. You have to teach people, how to use that money and what to do with it so that they can feel healthier from a financial perspective. Occupational mastery and autonomy. So this is the ability to be able to learn and grow within your field, within your career, that even if there's not a vertical promotion up, that there might be ways to continue to expand or broaden your position in some way. And autonomy is all about having personal choices within your work. And so if you're micromanaged and you have no personal choices, we know that people's happiness, meaning goes down, engagement goes down, and it creates issues from a workforce perspective, and even team building and people getting along. So there are a lot of programs that will focus on how can you structure an organization from a manager and supervisor and a lot of things that are going on in the environment to create more choice for people. And then on the spiritual side, purpose, values, meaning, happiness, autonomy, people, we take it for granted that people maybe just know this for themselves, and that's just not the case. And so helping people to figure out for themselves their purpose, values, and meaning, and then how that fits into an organization, and helping an organization's leaders and management figure out their purpose, values, and meaning really creates a better culture and climate for all of the employees. So these are just a fraction of considerations. You see just how many there are. When doing interventions, there are a lot of areas to address. And so at the individual level, what you see in purple, it's going to be the individual's beliefs and attitudes, which we know that we do that a lot in our programming. Their mindset, the thoughts that they have. They have knowledge around the areas around wellness and well-being. Skills, so they might know what they need to do, but they don't know how to do it. And so a lot of programs out there are very focused on the individual and giving them knowledge, giving them skills, and giving them capability to take care of themselves. What are their motivators? What are their detractors? And addressing all of those things. What generally employers do a worse job with is moving outside that individual circle to the bigger circles. So the social and environmental circle with what's going on with the peers and really what's happening around them at work, and then connectedness. We know that people that can identify a best friend at work do better. They work harder. They're more motivated. They're happier at work, and that influences their health. What is the workspace like? Is it inspiring or is it depressing? The office, the building, what's that atmosphere look like? And then finally, this is the hardest to address, and so most organizations really don't get down to doing a great job with this. There are some, but this is the really tough piece, which is what's the organizational culture? How does that organization function and communicate? Does it create an environment of trust in which people trust and lean into each other, or does it create a competitive, backstabbing type of competing against each other situation? Do people have decision-making capabilities, that autonomy that is so important from a health and happiness perspective? And then a lot of times there's this talk of, oh, we believe in this and we do this, but there's these unspoken realities of what actually happens. You're expected to answer emails, late at night or on weekends. You're expected to do these things, and it's not really spoken about. It's just we know that it's there. We know that there is an expectation, and that drives a lot of culture. When I go in and I do programs for organizations, and a lot of times we're addressing a lot of the individual factors in a group setting. The employees really talk about these unspoken truths, is what they call them. That they say one thing, but they really expect another. And that can kill an organization, because you can spend a lot of money on all of these great and wonderful programs and initiatives. And at the end of the day, you don't really get your money's worth. You don't really see traction. You're not leveraging it the same way, because there's something going on in the ambiance and the culture that really prevents people from being able to leverage those things the way that they should. So all of these things are important. Of course, you always have to start somewhere, and you can't fix everything at once. But I think it's naive to ignore those outer circles and think that you're going to, make everybody healthy and solve all of your healthcare costs and productivity and performance with just, making sure each individual does what they're supposed to do. So just some numbers here. About half of U.S. employers offer some kind of wellness promotion initiative. It could be as little as just the health risk assessment that people take and get an incentive for, or maybe it's healthy options in the cafeteria. So that's just anything that they offer. 72% of the 50% identify that screening and interventions comprise their program. So the most typical things that you see is they do some kind of a screening health risk assessment. you get $100 or $200 or $500 in your account for doing this health risk assessment. And then what they do is they offer things like a weight loss program, nutrition, smoking cessation, based on the results of what they're seeing within their employees. And that is the majority of employers and the extent of what they offer. Once again, very just check the box and individual focus on well-being. So I'm going to talk about the screenings a little bit. 80% of employers with wellness programs screen their employees for risk, but less than 46% of employees participate. And what you tend to see is that employees who are already engaging in health activities and taking care of themselves are more likely to participate in these screenings than people who perhaps may have higher risk. And this is even with incentives, because virtually all employers offer an incentive. So it's not really great what they call participation. But what's worse than that is that a lot of these people just do the screening just to get their money, and they participate in nothing else later. But then employers will say, we had 75% participation. It means 75% of the people filled out their risk assessment, and that's where it ends. And we know that we don't see behavior change and outcomes from filling out an assessment. But a lot of times they're just really happy to check this box and increase that number of people who participated over last year, and that's what their metrics are based on. So they're measuring things that may not really matter, and they're not necessarily always measuring the things that matter. You could have less people participate than previous years, but then go on to actually take advantage of the program and make changes, and you would think that you failed because not as many people did the screening. So a lot of times there's a mistake in how things are being measured and assessed. So these are health risk assessments. They might be self-administered questionnaires, clinical screenings, or biometrics where they have a simple blood draw, or maybe a BMI is calculated or something along those lines. That's the majority of the screenings that are done. These are the common program interventions. So when you ask employers, okay, what are those program offerings that you have for people, this is what you see. Nutrition, weight being number one, smoking cessation being number two, and then things related to fitness, alcohol and drug use, stress management, just health education, and then a variety of other things. So very topic-centered, very individual-centered, basically saying, you're overweight, here's what you need to do, now you need to go do it type of an approach. So here, and there are a ton of research papers on wellness programs. I'm going to spare you all of the gory details and all of the arguing that goes on between all of these different companies that offer Worksite wellness. I'm going to just address a couple of things that I think are really important. I think if you work here at NMSU and you've interacted with me, you will know that I do not agree with weight loss programs. These ones where you get a group together and whoever loses the most pounds or the most percentage, I don't participate, I don't support those. And there's a reason for that. We're a research-based institution, and we're supposed to follow what the research shows, and the research clearly shows that weight loss programs, not only do they not create sustained long-term significant weight loss for participants, it actually contributes to weight cycling, yo-yo dieting, and all kinds of other disordered eating types of patterns, and do not create long-term behavior change on behaviors. And so for me, it's like, okay, if we get a research paper, multiple research paper that shows that we shouldn't be doing something, why are we doing it at the university when we're supposed to be following the research? So I have a problem with them. I know people like to do them and it's fun and they want to win money and all of that. And maybe you have one person that kickstarts their program, but typically what people do is they work really hard while the weight loss program's going on, and then they win or they don't win, and then they go back to eating all the things that they couldn't eat before and stop exercising, and many of them end up even gaining more weight than they had prior to starting the weight loss program. What research shows is that when you do a variety of different interventions, you can see changes in people's behaviors. You can see that they might start exercising more often, that they might quit smoking or smoke less, that they increase fruit and vegetable intake. that they might be more conscious about the fats they intake. But it also doesn't mean that those things have translated into weight loss or outcomes like, oh, wow, everyone started exercising more, now we have less diabetes. There really hasn't been great data to support that. So on these ROI studies that you'll see, this is where all the fights occur between all of the different companies, the way that they've done the research. A lot of the wellness providing companies will claim that, for every dollar you invest, you save $3 to $7. I'm going to tell you that the research, those research papers, many have been debunked in terms of being fraudulent, in terms of their results and what they have shown. Oftentimes, it's like a break even. There's really not return on investment. There may be some return on investment, and in some cases, there's actually you spend more and don't really see savings coming back. So employers have to decide why they're doing these things. If they think they're going to become more profitable because of it, that's probably not the primary reason that they should be doing wellness. If they want their employees to be healthier and happier as far as how they feel about their lives, a more positive environment, people working together better, things along those lines that aligns with their mission and their purpose, that would be a better reason to do these things. And if they happen to see a return on investment because they've done things the right way for the right reason, that would be a better approach to take. And it's very aligned with what I recommend to people. I don't recommend to people that you get on a weight loss program. I recommend to people find what makes you feel good from an eating and exercising and sleeping perspective. Do the things that you know are right for you. And if you happen to lose weight as a side effect from doing what is right for you, that's just an added bonus. But to go into it trying to lose weight can really cause a lot of different issues, those outcome goals versus behavioral or process types of goals. So I just wanted to mention that because it's like literally one of the most common things that you see in wellness programs is weight loss programs, and we literally just had one at NMSU. So I just wanted to emphasize that. What are some other interventions that workplaces might engage in? It might be vaccinations, providing healthy food options. There are some employers that will actually subsidize the healthier food options, so they will make them lower cost, absorbing some of the costs for that healthy food to encourage people to choose those healthier foods. They might rearrange the cafeteria so that the fried, high-fatty foods are kind of in the back corner, and the first thing that people see are the fresh salads and vegetables and less processed types of food. So it really just depends on the employer. Of course, employee assistance programs from a mental and emotional health. There are some employers that have on-site clinics, and so if you have people leaving for doctor's appointments and that sort of thing, there are places that will have an on-site nurse practitioner that's always there, and people can go see them and take less time off from work to get some of their simple things taken care of. They might have health-related campaigns that go along with yearly or monthly health things, like a certain month, physical activity month, or smoking cessation day, or whatever it might be, and they might do some campaigns around that. They might put on wellness events and health fairs and things along those lines, and actually allow people to go engage in these activities and get paid while they're doing it, which is always a great thing. And then a lot of the employers offer disease-specific programs, whether it's diabetes or asthma or heart-related programs, maybe even programs on depression. They might offer one specific to certain conditions. These are just, this was taken actually from a proposal I had done for a company that was looking to implement employee wellness, and these were just some of the possible components I had proposed to them, where it could be employee surveys that are individual, but also ask about leadership, environment, and culture. For pretty low cost, you can design these surveys and have a company send out those surveys and gather the data and create reports and things along those lines. A lot of employers like a social platform of some sort, whether it's like a Facebook or a Yammer or something along those lines, in which it's all dedicated to wellness and people can post things on there and support each other, and maybe there's content available, and it's all based in a social platform similar to a Facebook. Also, there might be a one-on-one coaching for people available. There could be webinars that are offered, on-site educational sessions, so classes, lunch and learns, things along those lines. on-site application, so it might be going to the gym and taking people and showing them how to use equipment that's available there. So a lot of employers will have gyms, and the people that use the gym are the ones who already know what they're doing with equipment. They feel confident, so they go in there and they use the gym. And people who really should start working out or want to start working out because they really need it are intimidated by going there and not understanding how all of the equipment works and what they need to do. So some of these on-site sessions, hands-on, and really showing people, how to use those things. It could be tracking systems for, tracking through an app or through the social platform or some other system for tracking not weight, but behaviors. How often did I go to the gym? How often did I make a healthy choice versus a not healthy choice? Whatever it might be that somebody wants to track for themselves. So I think what's important about these is that allowing people to understand what they want to track. I want to track my water intake because I noticed that affects me a lot more, where someone else may not need or want to track that. And a lot of times in these programs, it's we're tracking this on you, and that creates this loss of autonomy for people, and it demotivates them and it demoralizes the culture. Wellness champions. So instead of having people of authority or people who are experts in wellness, a lot of times finding just everyday employees who are super excited about wellness and want to improve themselves but also help support others can be much more effective than having experts represent wellness. You've got the really buff people that are like all muscular and have no fat on them, and it's intimidating for some people. They're like, I'm never going to look like that, so why bother? Or I'm not going to be able to keep up. And sometimes that doesn't work well, and your best bet is it's kind of like using community health workers or promotoras. It's having the everyday person that I interact with and work with be the wellness champion and be that cheerleader and be that supporter for that. A lot of employers use, or one of the possibilities is to use wellness communication. They might have a wellness newsletter or bulletins. It could be tips. There are employers that will put signs right in front of the elevator that says, why are you here? Go take the stairs, just as a reminder. So really leveraging all the communication avenues, but from a wellness perspective. And then finally, something that I think is really important is leadership and management training, because a lot of times that's where it falls short. There's sort of this wellness program that exists because of whatever reason, but leadership and management don't really understand it, support it. They don't know what they need to do to really make it work. And so getting training specific to leadership and management can be really effective and important. All right, factors of success: effective communication strategies, broad outreach, and clear messaging. So I've gone into employers in which I'll go teach a class that people are required to go to, which is always fun to have prisoners in your class. And then they say, well, I know that they just want to save money and this is like a fat camp, and they're really sarcastic and cynical about the interventions, and it's really hard for me going in to deal with that. But the context and the communication, and that's, again, leaders and managers are responsible for that. And I find that a lot of things aren't successful that could have been successful because of poor communication, bad context, unclear messaging, super confusing. It's just haphazardly put together. It's an afterthought, and it's a real killer. Also, for an opportunity for employees to engage and to hear their voice, making sure activities are accessible and convenient for all employees. So a lot of times I'll go in, and the way that they've constructed wellness programming and initiatives is that it's more suited for your salaried office employee versus an hourly employee, a shift worker. They really can't participate the way that it's been designed because their work structure doesn't really allow for that. And that can be a really big problem because it becomes an us versus them. Oh, it's for those people, not for us. And that already exists within organizations. And so what it does is it widens that gap between the haves and the have-nots, and a lot of the cultural issues that exist within an organization. And so bringing people to the table from different functions, different areas, different levels, different types of workers really helps to make sure that you're capturing the voice and the needs of everybody within an organization. Leadership should be engaged at all levels, really making sure that middle management, I call middle management when it comes to wellness the mushy middle. And that's because a lot of times that's where all of these initiatives fall apart. The leadership might be super excited and thinks it's the greatest thing in the world, and the employees are looking forward to it. And then management, who tends to be sandwiched between being accountable to leaders on performance and productivity and outcomes and results, and then managing all of these employees, things tend to fall apart. The management doesn't really support these initiatives and just wants results out of the employees, and so what you do is you have kind of everything fall apart in that mushy middle. And so it becomes really important how you structure even performance reviews for managers, and making sure that they're accountable to having allowed and empowered people to be well and engage in some of these initiatives. If you're basing it all on sales and profits, then there's no incentive at all for managers to really help promote this to their employees. Using existing resources and ability to build relationships within an organization. A lot of times they just bring in some expert from the outside and go, okay, take care of this. And there's a lot of times internal resources and relationships and connections that can be leveraged to really create a successful intervention and program. And then evaluation is killer, and most organizations don't do this well. So evaluation for improvement of everything from A to Z, the interventions that are offered, or the programs or the initiatives, to how people feel, the context, the trust, the culture, just how can that be improved. And organizations just put so much energy on that front end and then just leave off that back end, and so they're not really able to assess whether something is working or not. And then it just becomes a program of the month, flavor of the month type of situation, which is never good. So this is kind of this is what I talk to leadership and management about, is the difference between being aware of wellness activities and what they do for you, and the fact that you have them in your organization. A lot of times wellness programs are being managed by occupational health, or through HR, or through benefits, and so leaders come in and they it's those people over there that kind of do that stuff. Great, yeah, I know that we have some kind of an assessment because I do it every year and get my money, and it's really, that's the extent of their engagement with the wellness and programming. Then you have leaders that might support it. They'll say, this is, this company really cares about you and we want you to be well, and so we've got all of these things in place and please use it. And that does not go well, I can tell you, because I talk to the employees and they are just like, that's just a nice thing to say, it's not really real. And so what I think counts is when leadership enables wellness, when they actually put structure and the organization and systems and communication and the context of how they structure everything in the organization to enable, to encourage, to empower these wellness types of activities and behaviors for people, that they enable a culture that supports that it makes it easy to do wellness versus, oh my gosh, it's so hard because I have to, use an extra hour and take it away from my family to do this and that in order to work out, and then it's a big pain and there's no showers there, and it's like, yes, we have a gym, but you can't actually use it because it's not practical, it's not accessible, and it doesn't have anything that you would need to make it real. And so a lot of organizations that do this well will think this through and say, okay, we will actually pay for 30 minutes of a workout or whatever it might be. We will actually pay for healthier food and subsidize it. We're going to make it easier. We're going to serve at all of the meetings healthy food to enable, instead of, serving cookies and brownies and, this sort of thing. And now somebody has to go out of their way to bring something from home to make healthy choices. So it's these little things that are going on that really make the difference between making it really hard for people to be healthy versus really laying it out there for them and saying, you've got to go out of your way to be unhealthy. And so I think that's really important. Okay, so and along those lines, actions speak louder than words. I love this. We're having a big meeting tomorrow to kick off our employee wellness campaign. Who's in charge of bringing the soda and donuts? This happens everywhere, all the time. It's so insane. It happens at NMSU here. It happens all over. It's kind of funny, but it's not, because it shows you the issues. Is that it's like this compartment over here is wellness, and then we've got meetings or we've got these things going on, and we habituate that this is the type of food that's expected and that we serve at these places. And then there's assumptions that people would be upset if you didn't have the cookies and brownies. And yes, because people come to work just for the cookies and brownies. That's the most important thing to them. And so we create a story and we create a mindset as organizations around the expectations and that sort of thing. But you want to align. You can't say that something's important and then put everything out that goes against all of those ideas. It's important to walk the talk. It's important to look around and say, are the things that we have around us supporting the initiatives that we have? Are the leaders leading by example? Are the managers leading by example? And so this is where like the rubber hits the road. This really matters a lot in organizations. And this is the other thing. So tomorrow is the mandatory meeting on employee health and well-being. The meeting starts at 6 a.m. so it will interfere with your sleep and not your work. Doesn't that send a message that work is more important than health? I hope so. That's the theme of the meeting. So this is that underlying unspoken truth. We care about your well-being, but only if it doesn't interfere with all of the required work and emails and projects and all of the things that we give you. And the fact that we just let somebody go and you're going to absorb their job too, so you have two people's jobs. We care about your health, but just make sure you get this done first. They don't say that, but we know in a lot of organizations that's what they mean. And so a lot of times when I go into organizations, this is what people are saying to me. Yes, they're saying that, but it's not true. And so it's a smoke and mirrors and an illusion. And so we have to be really honest. And when I meet with leaders and managers, is let's talk for real. Let's be honest with ourselves and what's going on. And so are you just checking the box and saying, yes, we have a wellness program and we offer it to people, and it's not our fault that people don't take advantage of it? Or does it really have value, and how are we going to structure the organization, the work, and everything around it, the resourcing, the human resourcing, so because we know that it does matter and that it's important and that everybody wins when we do this. There are studies that show, really solid studies, that you're better off paying people to sleep at work for a certain amount of time, because that productivity and performance and their well-being increases that much, where you actually say, here's the nap room, it's like kindergarten, you're required to take a nap because we know that you're going to do better and we're going to pay you for that nap. But the idea of that for employers is, oh no, we can't, pay them to slack on the job, instead of seeing a nap, a 30-minute nap or a 20-minute nap, as actually being just as important as soft skill training or required training on sexual harassment or whatever it might be. It's just hard a lot of times to shift and to have employers see that. But the research is there. The research supports that those things have value. This one, I love this one. They tried adding healthy snacks to the office vending machine, but all that rotting fruit made the candy bars taste bad. So I see this a lot as well. With good intentions, the employers say, oh, what people want is this, and they just put it there, and then they're so shocked when it doesn't work, because they haven't involved employees to say, what do you want? What is it that really would help you to feel healthier and be healthier? We know that just putting something there, the notion of if you build it, they will come, that's just not true. And if you give people knowledge, we know that it's not an automatic translation to behavior change. So you have to really understand employees, their perspectives, their issues, their barriers, their detractors, their motivators, their buy-in, their all of those things, to really understand what's going to work and what you're going to get the most benefit from within an organization. And so we know in wellness programs that there's this notion of using carrots and sticks. It is a frustrating area for me. So I'm going to talk about motivation and how you get people. I don't even want to say get people, how people will want to make change on their own, basically. So there's carrots, which are incentives and rewards for doing things, and then there's sticks for punishment for not doing things. So a carrot might be do this health risk assessment and get $200. A stick might be, if you smoke, we're going to charge you more for something. So what the research shows is that in general, carrots and sticks do not work for long-term real behavior change. They work for very specific short-term things like, I need you to fill out this assessment. That's all we care about. We don't actually care if you do anything after you fill out the assessment. We just want to check the box and get our numbers up. That's a good time to use a carrot. For using a stick, it's if you don't do the health risk assessment, we're going to subtract $100 from your account, blah, blah, blah type of thing. For that one-time thing, that is going to work. Beyond that, you're going to make employees mad or you're going to demoralize them. But it's still the standard protocol for health and wellness types of programs. So when to use incentives, as I said, it's a one-time thing that they want you to do, and you don't have to do anything else with it after that. That's extrinsic motivation. Carrots and sticks are extrinsically motivated. So you're getting people to either go after something outside or avoid something from the outside. Where you really see behaviors change for long term is through intrinsic motivation. It comes from the person within themselves. And that can create much higher levels of motivation and much more sustained levels of motivation. And then also it helps with resiliency and grit and persistence. So how do people persist through setbacks? It has to be intrinsic motivation. People don't persist with extrinsic motivation. So how do you convert extrinsic to intrinsic motivation? There's all of these different formulas. So you can just look at some of the words here, meaning. This has to mean something to me. It has to conjure up feelings for me. So if you think about commercials and advertising, a lot of times people buy or want something because of how it makes them feel, not because of what it does necessarily. We're emotional buyers, and the same thing happens from a well-being perspective, a wellness perspective. We don't make a change due to something that's very cognitive. We do it because of something that's very meaningful or emotional for us. And you have to give people choices. You can't limit how they engage with wellness. They have to feel like they're making a choice. And it's just like, for little kids, they'll say, don't just tell little kids, you have to do this. Say this, or this, and give them a choice. And it really lowers kind of the anger and the back and forth. We're just grown-up little kids. People actually like to be challenged from an internal perspective, knowing that something's going to be hard and that they have to work hard for it, but it's attainable. So if it's too easy, people actually lose the inspiration. And if it's not attainable, they lose inspiration. So it's got to be that right in between. And trigger maybe a curiosity. I wonder what would happen if I did this. Feeling in control, once again. And so almost this fantasy of, wow, this is what my life could be. It's still realistic, but really it draws them in. And then this last equation just shows a sense of purpose. So I know why I want to do it for me. I can actually apply knowledge I get. So I'm not getting knowledge that I can't actually use. It's not realistic. It doesn't work for me in my life. I can actually apply it. I can get better at it, self-mastery. That is a critical component of happiness for people. Feeling like they can improve and get better themselves. Belonging and feeling like they belong to a social network, a group of people that understand them, that are like them. The power of others to inspire and to support and to pick you up when you've fallen down, and then just a sense of fun. And a lot of times employers will just do something fun. We're going to put a ping pong table in, and that's going to fix our entire culture. So they'll take a piece of this, but they don't really look at the holistic perspective to really making sure that they're covering all of the different areas that inspire intrinsic motivation. Worksite competitions, just a couple of more things on this. You can do challenges based on results or challenges based on action. And again, the last worksite competition that we had here on weight was based on results. What % weight did you lose? Versus actions that you take. So going to the gym consistently, you went there, or eating more fruits and vegetables, so behaviorally based. And so the results on this is that challenges based on actions are more positive, and they get more sustained results, and they create more of a bonding and positive morale situation. The challenges based on results can contribute to weight cycling, unhealthy approaches. People will just do whatever it takes to lose weight or win. There are actually people that cheat to win, or they sandbag by starting off at the worst possible point so that they see the most improvements. They engage in unrealistic behaviors, unsustainable behaviors, and there's a lot of decreases in morale for those who already are healthy, because they say, well, what do I get? I'm already doing this and I don't get anything for it. Or if they don't win, then it's like, why did I bother? Blah. And so, or they accuse other teams of cheating, and it can become really, really ugly in organizations, which completely defeats the purpose of why those are being done. So is it worth it? Organizations have to decide that for themselves, but filling out an HRA or health risk assessment participation does not mean people are engaging with wellness, and engaging with wellness here or there does not mean that it's translating to outcomes. So organizations have to be really clear on why they're doing things, and if they're measuring return on investment, which is dollars, or value on investment, which is other things that are hard to measure with dollars. Satisfaction, employee happiness, things along those lines. And there's always hidden costs and benefits to everything. So this is just organizations being clear on what they want. And then these are just some of the potential measures. This again came from a proposal that I wrote for an employer. Satisfaction with programs, self-reported improvements, engagement with the program, to what extent they use things, how they perceive their managers, and if their managers actually support, if their leaders actually support and empower them. Workplace satisfaction, lifestyle measures. It could be HR measures like absenteeism and missed hours of work and things along those lines. It could be engagement levels, illness, injury claims. So there's a lot of different measures. And once again, you want to figure these out before you start a program, instead of being 3/4 away and being like, what should we look at? And that's a lot of times, again, it's the hurry up and just start without really being completely organized. So I want to spend the last part of this just talking a little bit about extension in worksite wellness. And again, these are just some ideas I have, and I'm sure you have many more. So the first one I have is why extension in worksite wellness, and this is just from my perspective. Extension offers expertise and resources. We have an ability to reach dependents and family members outside of the workplace with the same programming, perhaps, that might be available to employees within organizations. We have local offices wherever employers are, and face-to-face abilities. Most providers of worksite wellness are, it's not a face-to-face, it's provided in some other land, and it's provided through a portal of some sort, and it's very kind of cold and moving away, not face-to-face, not really interactive at all. So we really, I think, can leverage that. It provides a connection and liaison into the community. So when you start to get involved with employers are very much involved within the community, and it really gets you a lot of different connections, and we can bring connections to them. And so it's really just this great collaboration. And then even potential partnerships for community events and initiatives. A lot of employers do that. We do that as well. We might be able to help employers within a community become better known, to become seen as an employer that cares about their employees and things along those lines. Why would worksite wellness be something that Extension should be interested in? Well, you have a captive audience. So a lot of times in Extension, we're trying to recruit people to come to programs after hours, during lunch, on a Saturday. And employers have people sitting right there, and most of the time when you do wellness, they are paying their employees to sit there and receive the wellness. So you have a captive audience that's actually getting paid to listen and receive programming. You might be able to reach people who would never attend a program out in the community for whatever reason. We know that we have those people out there. So you might be able to reach those employees that would just never, ever show up otherwise to a program. Because an employer has this captive audience and they have ways of communicating with employees, it's actually way easier, a lot easier to collect any kind of data that you want and actually do follow-up for outcomes types of studies, which we know we struggle with in Extension. It allows Extension to have even deeper connections in the community, so that's a win-win. And if we make a financial impact to employers and help them to perhaps save money or improve employee satisfaction, that increases our value within the community. And that can actually give us a voice at the decision-making table for funding and for impact. When employers say, listen, we need extension, we need to fund them because here's what they do for us. So those are the perspectives that I have. I think it's a win-win. Employers get healthier employees, improved outcomes. Extension is allowed to meet their mission to provide service and value to community and businesses around them. And I'm going to give you some examples of how other extension is working in Worksite Wellness. And this is just a fraction, and I have the links in here, so when I send out the presentation, if you wanted to read more about what they're doing, you can click on these links. So Cornell Cooperative Extension in each of their counties, these are just 2 county examples. The CHANCE program is actually available to New York statewide through Extension, and then they actually have this other Adopting a Healthy Habits Community Coalition that is goes in and helps with Worksite Wellness. And one of the things I noticed is that all of them charge for these services to the employer. So it's just an interesting thing to look at here. I think the pricing here, this is Iowa, Eating Well, Moving More. Some of them even have their own websites just for employers to go and see what they offer to employers. So wellness program helps employees make lifestyle changes. And then just talks about some of the offerings and how much it costs per participant, what it includes, and some optional things that the employer can buy. Small Steps to Health and Wealth, again, what's the fee for that? And on some of these, if you go into the link, it actually creates the business case. Why do you want us coming into your organization? And it talks about healthcare savings and improved performance and productivity, and some of the same things that I just talked about. If you look at, this is Michigan, again, Worksite Wellness. This had a list of all kinds of topics and programs, many of which we have available as well. So they're just going in and taking the same classes they offer to the community and taking it into the employer arena. They train worksites on this, Extension developed Work at Health program, and once again, so it addresses all of these different areas, and it's pretty interesting if you click on these links and look at it. Texas, their AgriLife Extension has a Building Healthy Workplace, a blueprint seminar, and they provide these seminars in different parts of Texas, and the employers come and they learn kind of a blueprint to take back to their organization and begin to implement Worksite Wellness. I think they charge $75 a person to attend as a seminar, and they actually have an entire website that's Worksite Wellness related through this AgriLife Extension. North Carolina, Workable Wellness, practical solutions through on-site group training sessions, manage stress, become more physically active, so you can go there and see what they're doing. And so here I have just, and I'm going to open it up for you guys to put out some ideas, but how to get started, join the local Chamber of Commerce and other business or employer groups, and set up meetings with employers to discuss. Some of these foundational things that I put into the slides are good starting points in discussing needs and gaps, thinking of what the win-win scenario is for them and for you. Just starting with one program that people really enjoy and saying, hey, this is going to help you, let me come in and do it. And then kind of building from there. So Diane Christensen and I have been doing this resiliency program for all of the municipal court staff here of New Mexico, the judges, the lawyers. I mean, we've done, 10 presentations. And now that we've hit everybody in all of the different counties, we're moving on to do other programs. I am going to Albuquerque later this week to do one on sleep in the gut. And so we sort of roped them in with one, and now they want to do more things. And so it's just starting with something and showing success. You can even leverage the train the trainer model to teach employees on how to deliver wellness-related content. That's something that Rick and I are testing in his county with the largest employer in his county. We've already trained some trainers on the resiliency program, and we're hoping to see them roll that out. And then it takes some pressure off of Rick, to go in and in person deliver everything, but yet you're still collecting data, you're still able to get the content developed by extension into the hands of a lot more people. So what could New Mexico Extension offer? Again, this is just some ideas that I threw on here. You know, we have lots of content, so you know, the content is not what's missing. I think it's the structure and thinking this through. Train the trainers. We can offer webinars. You know, just like I'm doing for you all, we could offer webinars and make them available to employees in organizations. We can actually make our fact sheets or other publications available to them. Maybe creating a healthy working environment recommendation sheet that talks to them about what foods to serve at meetings and things along those lines. Maybe coming in and facilitating a health fair within the organization. So lots of options there. So I wanted to open it up for a discussion. I know that we're running up against the hour, but you know, what are you doing in your county that fits into Worksite Wellness? What are your ideas that you might have? How can Extension help employers? How can I help you? And so this is just an open discussion on microphone or chat that I would like to have.
Cindy, I think one of the things that we are up against is we have to kind of think of how to reach a new audience that we haven't reached before. And the traditional farmer kind of home family group may not be where we're going to be successful with some of these wellness programs. So it's telling people who about Extension, what we do and what we can do for them. And I think that's really been a hard barrel to get over for many of the offices.
Yeah, so maybe it's, you know, again, establishing relationships, you know, through wherever they are. You know, it's like, where do they go? In Florida, it was a lot of the Chamber of Commerce, but then maybe creating like a one-page fact sheet about Extension and, you know, emphasizing the things that matter to them. So, you know, we don't have to emphasize all the things we've done in the past and where it fits into agriculture. Yes, that's an important part, but what is it? You always want to sell them on the buy-in for them. And what are all of those things that we can offer through having maybe a one-pager or a mini slides presentation that says, hey, this is Extension, and these are all of the things and experts that we have and the things that we can offer, and why these matter to you as an employer. So Cindy, do you think that that could be something that could work?
Yes, and one group that we've tried to really reach and we haven't been very successful, but are all the Bernalillo County employees. And we've tried to bring luncheon kind of things to them and whatnot, but they don't even really know what we do or who we are. So that one-page tip sheet might be a good thing to just do a little ad for what we are, you know.
Yeah, and even like the New Mexico Edge, don't we put a lot of the employees from the city or the county through that, and maybe offering some of our extension programming through that?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. Anybody else?
This is Rick. One other thing that I think of is that I think with looking at this, it's a good opportunity for us to also rethink how we program. One of the things that I realize is that a lot of times I look at things very much through my teacher lens that comes from the fact that I was trained to teach, just stand in front of a group and you talk and they listen. And realizing that there are so many other opportunities to present information, to deliver knowledge than just through that. So, you know, this might give us those opportunities. A challenge is a learning activity just as much as a class is. And to look at how we're presenting information, how we're delivering our programming, and give us opportunities to look at trying new methods and different methods. Perhaps in a way that doesn't necessarily, you know, we're not going into our traditional clientele and doing radically different things for them that might turn them off. We can use this as an opportunity to test out new things, to try different ways of reaching new groups, and to try new methods with new audiences.
Yeah, I think that's great. And a lot of the things that we are doing in the community that are hands-on, I mean, imagine going to an employer that does have a cafeteria and putting on some kind of a example of how to make something healthy, and doing it right there, and employees can come and it's hands-on, and they have kitchens, and we can take things that we're already doing and reach new audiences, and then we can also test completely new ways of doing things in a safer way, because you're doing it in collaboration with an employer who says, yes, this is a need we have, let's test this out. So I love that. If you guys have like more ideas that you want to think about after listening to all of this and send them, I think that could also be great, and we can compile that and see what might be an option at the state level as well. Who else? Anyone? Kelly, Laura? I won't put pressure on you then. So what I want everyone to do then, whether you're on here live or you're listening to this later, is to really just take this in and take a step back and think about all of what Extension is and has to offer, and the mission of Extension, and then also employers who employ the people that live within our communities, and what their issues and their needs are, and how we might find, here's Extension and here's employers, and how do we find like that overlap of where we fit well together to really, find a shared mission and common things that would be a win-win for both of us, and send me those ideas, and figure out how we might get into this more strategically and not haphazard, but what's a real kind of overarching way that we might test this out and see what might work. And then as part of this presentation, I will also send you just some resources and additional reading on Worksite Wellness in case you're interested. It's always good to speak Worksite Wellness language. Worksite Wellness language when talking to employers, and making sure that you're using terminology that resonates with them, ROI and VOIs and productivity and whatever, because then it feels like you're a player in that game, and that you know what you're talking about, and you're a good sounding board for brainstorming and that sort of thing. And if I can help you with that and be part of those conversations with people in person or even over the phone, please reach out to me, and I would be glad to help you with that. So any final comments or questions? Well, I hope this was useful to you, and that we are able to test some things out and get further into Worksite Wellness, which I think could really help everybody in our communities. Thank you, everyone, for joining and for participating. Thank you.
Thank you.